Okay, this week we have Parshas Beha'aloscha. The very beginning of the Parsha talks about the mitzvah that Aaron HaKohen was given to light the menorah, to clean out the menorah. Beha'aloscha haneros el mul panei menorah ya'iru shivas haneros. So the pasuk says in pasuk Gimel, Vayas Kain Aaron. Aaron did exactly that. El mul panei menorah hel haneros kasher tziva Hashem es Moshe, just like Hashem commanded Moshe. And Rashi says from the Sifri, what's Vayas Kain Aaron? Lahagid Shvachai, to tell us the praise of Aaron HaKohen, Shaloi Shina, that he didn't change. And everybody asks, what was that? Aaron HaKohen was told specifically by the Rebbeinu Shalom to do something, and Aaron HaKohen did it. That's wonderful, but that's the Shvach Vayas Kain Aaron, that he did that Shaloi Shina. Maikasal Kadaitach, what's the Havamina that he would do otherwise? And it could be Al Derech HaPshat. Aaron HaKohen was a Chashav, a Talmud Chacham, and maybe he would have like his own personal input, how he would suggest to do it, or how he would think to do it, but he did exactly Shaloi Shina. He did exactly the way the Rebbeinu Shalom said it, and he didn't change one iota from that tzivui. But still, Chazal were hinichu makam to say other pshatim, because it still is a better question than answer. L'chayra, what does it mean? Lahagid shvachei shaloi shina. Why would we think that Aaron HaKohen would change? And what's the great phrase shaloi shina? So a lot of different vertelach al derech hadrush have been said over here. And I want to share from the Sfas Emes. The Sfas Emes says that when everyone starts a mitzvah, there's a great hislavus, there's a great excitement when you start the mitzvah. The most common bracha you give a boy by his anachas tefillin, whether it's by his bar mitzvah or a month before or whatever the minig is, you say the same excitement that you have when you are putting on tefillin today, the same ischachus, that you should feel every day. And it's not easy to keep that ischachus because you get used to doing mitzvahs, you get used to a certain routine. So the idea of Aaron HaKohen was that he did the mitzvah every day with the same excitement, with the same frischkeit that he had that first time. Vayas Kain Aaron. Aaron did it on a regular basis. Lahagid shvachai shel Aaron shaloi shina, that he didn't change. Not that he didn't change the procedure of doing the hadlakas hamenorah, but that he didn't change his mood, he didn't change his excitement for it. And that is an important lesson. Again, a drush here in the Rashi, in the Chazal, but an important lesson nonetheless of how a person is supposed to approach mitzvahs, how a person is supposed to do mitzvahs, not because we want to pater ourselves and we want to get rid of the mitzvah, but adarabah, there's a certain excitement, there's a certain islavus that we do a mitzvah with, and we see this later in the parsha, in the sugya of Pesach Sheni, where it talks about that the people who were Tamei lanefesh, that they couldn't bring the carbon Pesach b'moyadoi in the right time. So instead of saying, okay, I'm pater, I was Tamei, I was exempt from the mitzvah, they said, Lama nigara, why should we lose out? Let's figure out plan B, let's figure out something. We want to do a mitzvah. A lot of times people approach Rabbanim and they ask a shaila, they're looking for a kula, they're looking for a way out, and that shouldn't be our approach. Fakert, we want to look for a way to try to do the mitzvah. Okay, you tell me I'm pater, but Lama nigara, why should I lose out? I want to bring the carbon Pesach. And sure enough, it was nischad the parsha of Pesach Sheni, that they were able to do K'chol Chukais HaPesach, that they were able to do that on Yud Daled Iyar instead of Yud Daled Nisan. But that's the idea, the approach of the mitzvahs Malamed, that Lahagid Shvachei Shal Aaron Shalei Shina, that he didn't change that excitement. It's kedai to mention from the Kedushas Levi, Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Bar Ditchever, who said it in a more Hasidish style, that the Nakuda was that he said, if I was asked by the Rebbeinu Shalom to light the candles of the menorah, if I was asked a direct tzivui from Hashem, I would get so excited with Hazah Slavus that I would run, I would probably spill the oil, I would probably sink the wicks. I mean, there would be such an excitement. And Aaron Lahagid Shvachai, that he kept his equilibrium, and Imamish Shaloi Shina, that he didn't change one thing. So that's Ru'uya Lemisha Aimrei. That's the way if you ever see the Rebbe's counting Sfira, the brachas with Hazah Slavus, it's hard to keep them on the ground level. But that's the Gavaldiga level of Dveikus, of Islavus for a mitzvah. So that's Lahagid Shvachai Fakert Shaloi Shina, that he was able to keep it in check. But the way the Sfas Emes says it is fakert, that his slavus that he had, that did continue. That was the shaloi shina. That was a lesson that could be brought out from this drasha of Ayas Kain Aaron, that the mitzvahs that we do, the chiyuvim that we have, we shouldn't look at them as burdens. Like it says by Bilam, when he ended up blessing Klal Yisrael, it says, Lo yira amal bi Yisrael. He didn't see toiling in Klal Yisrael. And the Arachayim HaKadosh in Parshas Balak says that it doesn't mean that Klal Yisrael weren't toiling. Of course they were learning Torah, they were doing mitzvahs, but it wasn't amelus. It didn't look like toiling, it didn't look like a burden. Fakert, they did it with such simcha, and that's the idea that a Yid Yid has to realize, as we have that chiyuv to do mitzvahs, but the simcha shal mitzvah is so chashuv. The Arizal says that the greatest levels that he had in Ruchnitz was because he was Mekayim mitzvahs b'simcha. The Mishnah Berurah brings down in Siman Tov Reish Samach Tes by Simchas Torah, the idea of the Arizal talking about how we make a siyum shal Torah on Simchas Torah and the simcha shal mitzvah, how chashuv it is. That's something that's an important lesson here from the beginning of the parsha. But I want to talk about and focus be'ikr on another inyan that really we see at the very end of the parsha, that it says in Parak Yud Beis that Moshe Rabbeinu writes in the Torah in Parak Yud Beis Pasuk Gimel, V'ha'ish Moshe anav ma'od mikol ha'adam asher pnei Adam. Moshe Rabbeinu was an anav ma'od, a great anav, mikol ha'adam asher pnei Adam, greater than anyone that was ever on the world, greater than anyone in those days and greater than anyone ever. He was the most humble of people. It's interesting, the expression that he was anav ma'od, a very big anav, mikol Adam. My father-in-law, Reb Chaim Gibber Shlita, said suggested a pshat in the diktuk of the words that Moshe, the Torah is telling us that Moshe Rabbeinu was far greater of an anav than anyone else, meaning the second place was a very distant second. He was an anav ma'od mikol Adam, not just that he was an anav ma'od, a big anav, and not just that he was anav mikol Adam, but he was anav ma'od mikol Adam asher pnei Adam, a very much greater anav than anyone else in the world. And when we're youngsters, so we're very bothered with this pasuk. Who wrote the Torah? Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu wrote it, al pi Hashem, fine. But he's sitting and writing with his quill that Va'ish Moshe anav ma'od mikol Adam. Isn't that a stira minei ubei, an oxymoron? That Moshe Rabbeinu is writing that he is an anav, that l'chayra is the biggest gaiva in the world. Well, one thing we have to know is that it's Torah's emes. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't make up the Torah. He said it, mi pi Hashem, al pi Hashem, biyad Moshe. It's also a lashon in this week's parasha. Al pi Hashem. So everything he wrote exactly what Hashem told him to write. But the truth is that the kasha, kushya meikara lesa, it's really not a kasha at all. And I just want to clarify this. This is an important understanding, a clarification in the midah of anava. The Netziv talks about it over here in the Hamek Davar in his Pirush on Chumash, and also in his very last piece in Masechta Saita. The Netziv al Hashas is called Mirai Meisada. In his last piece in the Gemara in Saita, he discusses what is anivus, what is true humility. And when he says his pshat, he says Udaloi ka Mesilas Yesharim, not like the Mesilas Yesharim. And he doesn't say which Mesilas Yesharim he means, but it's clear that he means the Mesilas Yesharim in the beginning of Parachav Beis, where the Mesilas Yesharim says that klal ha'anava, the klal of humility, is hayois ha'adam bilti machshev atzmai, that a person should not be machshev himself. He should consider himself on not such a high level. She'ein ha'te'ila va'akavod ru'uyim loi, he doesn't deserve any covet for it, because nobody's perfect. A person should realize that as great as you think you are, you're not that great. And that is anivus, the way the Mesilas Yesharim says it. And the Netziv says, he comes with a lot of rayas from Gemara, from Avos the Rab Nassan, from Yerushalmi, that from Gemaras in the Bavli, that he says, it can't be that that's what anava is. If anava is that you don't think that you're that great, so the Gemara says, he brings from the Avos the Rab Nassan, that Moshe Rabbeinu was an anav mikol Adam, v'loi mi malachim. But the malachim were greater, we're on a greater level of humility. What does that mean? A malach is exactly what he was created. A malach is not imperfect. So what does it mean that a person shouldn't think they're that great? How would it be by a malach? And he says, the Gemara Megillah, Lamed Aleph says that Shamata Moitze An V'Sanusai, we say it Motzei Shabbos, if you say V'yiten Lecha, that Hashem has a level of Anivus. So Hashem is the epitome of Shleimus, of perfection. So what does that mean? That Anivus is realizing that you're not perfect. So then the whole midah of Anava doesn't pass to say by the Rebbeinu Shalom. So Dr. Netziv, it's not what Anava is. Anava is someone who recognizes his Yodeya Eirech Atzmai. He knows his value, he knows his talents, he knows his milas. That's of course included in a person's Avodas Hashem. He doesn't need recognition about it. He doesn't take credit for himself and say, you see how I did it? You see how I finished the Masechta? You see how I accomplished? And take credit for himself and need that covet, need that compliment, need that recognition. He's unassuming. He keeps a low profile. He knows that he's good. He knows he has milas. He knows he's a nice person. He knows he's a Baal Tzedakah. He knows he's a Ben Torah, whatever mila he has, but he doesn't announce it to other people. He doesn't need the recognition of it. And then we say the Malachim, they do their, oisim be'ema ritzayin kainam, and that's it. They don't say, okay, now everyone has to compliment me and sing about me in Kel Adain. We sing about them in Kel Adain, but they don't need that. And of course, the Ambas Anusei HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the biggest meitiv and noisein, and he doesn't need us to compliment him. We do it. He's mitzvah us to do it, so we ourselves will be makir all the taiva of Hashem. But Hashem doesn't need that. That's shamat amoitze am v'sanusai. And he says with this is pshan in the Gemara that you hear often when someone is making a siyam ha-masechta soita. The last Gemara in soita is so puzzling. The Mishnah says that mishameis Rebbe batla anava. Once Rebbe died, so then that was the last of the great humble people of that level of anivus. And the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Yosef, loy tisni anava. Don't say that it was batla anava. Toha'ika ana, because I'm still here. So you can't say that that's the end of a tkufa of humble people, because I'm still here. And everyone says, what do you mean? If you're announcing that you're humble, that itself is gufa not humble. The answer is, Rabbi Yosef wanted the Mishnah to be Tairas Emes. And the Mishnah said that Mishameis Rabbi Batla Anava. So he said, it's Pashat not true, I am an Anav. He didn't go around announcing it until that point, but the fact that he was makir, that he was a great person, and that he was humble, that he had the midah of Anava, that's not something that goes against Anivus. And again, whether the Mesilas Yesharim really means against this, you have to look well in the Lashon of the Mesilas Yesharim. The Netziv surely understood that the Mesilas Yesharim was saying that the Klal HaAnava is that a person shouldn't be machshav himself because he should think that he's taka not as chashuv as maybe he would love to think, or maybe others think of him like that. He should realize his imperfection. And the Netziv says that's not what anava is. Anava is not a lack of recognition or recognizing that you're imperfect. It's that you don't need the covet for it, you don't need the recognition for it, and that's why he explains that Gemara in Soita and the anivas by Malachim and by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But that's really the secret of anava by a human being as well. It has nothing to do with self-confidence, it has nothing to do with a healthy ego. Of course, a person has to know his milas, he has to know what he can accomplish, he has to feel good about them, and that's what helps him continue to accomplish and to reach greatness. But at the same time, he shouldn't be announcing it to everyone else. Yahalalucha zar v'loy picha. Let someone else say your praises. You don't have to say it, and you don't even have to hear it from other people. That a person should realize that it's good to be an Oved Hashem ba'atznei aleches, and he doesn't need that covet and that recognition for it. But I remember talking to Rabbi Belsky many years ago. Rabbi Belsky Zatzal, I don't remember if it was with other people as well or as a private conversation, but I remember he was talking about the Yesod of Midas HaAnava, and he said he brought out another very important aspect in the Midas HaAnava. Every single human being has an ambition, has a she'ifa to godless, to be a great person. That's a very chashuv thing. That's something that brings a person to greatness. If a person doesn't have a she'ifa to be great, so he'll never become great. However, many people have this misconception that they have to be the best, meaning they have to be better than others. In the sports world, that's how it works. No matter how good you do, that's not important. What's important is that you're the last team standing. When the Super Bowl is over, or the World Series is over, or the championship is over, or the golf tournament, or whatever you're doing, if you're the final one that's there, so it doesn't make a difference if you scored 7 runs or 3 runs, if you struck out 5 times or no times. It does, as long as you're the last team standing. So if you're better than the others, then you win. You're the champion. But that's not the way it is in Ruchnius. A person has to grow and has to be the best he could be. But whether he's the best, better than other people, if someone studies hard for a test and gets 100 on the test, he has to be very happy about that. But he shouldn't be any less happy if 4 other people got 100 on the test. Or if he got a 98 on the test, it shouldn't be any less happy if the three other people got 100 on the test. If you do great, if you do the best you could do, then that's avodas Hashem, that's striving to be a great person. But the fact that you're better than other people, if you ever see these camp videos, they always show the picture of these kids coming down a water slide and saying, this camp that they're in is the best camp in the mountains, this is the best camp in the mountains. So I'm not making a machal against that. Let them enjoy the camp and be proud of the camp. But being the best camp in the mountains is not a Yiddish musig. That's not our ideal. Halavai, all the camps should be the best camp. Why is it my camp? My camp is the best for me. I enjoy it. It's a great camp and I'm happy about it. But the idea of being better than others is not our goal in life. Our goal is to be the best we could be. And anova is when you're happy with other people's success, because it's not about me. It's not about the covet I'm going to get. It's not about me being on the top of the list, on me being the highest, higher than other people. It's about me being the best. And Rabbi Belsky said with his hekif of Yedias, worldly knowledge and Torah knowledge, but he said that he read once about Alexander the Great. He conquered more land than anyone until his time, and he died at a young age of 33 years old. And it's documented that on his deathbed, at 33 years old, his Talmidim were there, his people that were close to him. I don't like using the word cronies, but his people that were close to him were asking him, what's your ratzon, what's your will at the very end of life? And he said, my dream and my hope is that no one will ever come onto the face of this world that will conquer more land than Alexander the Great. In other words, he knew he couldn't conquer any more land, but that didn't make a difference. He just wanted that no one else should accomplish more. No one else should conquer more land. And that's the exact opposite of Anava. Anava means, Halavai, everyone else should be great also. I'm happy with other people's success. I know I want to be the best I could be. But the epitome of a Baal Gaiva is someone who wants to be on top, even if it means just that no one else should do good, pushing everyone else down. But as long as I end up on top, that is the midah of Alexander the Great. We're doing a Masechta Tamid night seder with the Baal Batim, and in Tamid Av Lamed Beis Amud Aleph, the Gemara tells a whole story how Alexander the Great came to the Chachamim and asked them 10 questions, and then he asked them how he could get to certain places in the world that were very hard to get to, and the Chachamim had to help him get there. Why did he want to go to all these places in the world? Because he wanted to conquer as much land as possible. That's all he wanted, that his name. But now we see what was the motivation behind it. Not because he wanted to conquer land and be strong, it's because he wanted to be the strongest, the best, the greatest. And that was Lamaisa, the midah of Gaiva. And when we strive in our life to be kind of the midah sa'anava, again, it's not shvelus, it's not lowering ourselves or not believing in ourselves. We have to appreciate the talents that Hashem gave us. We have to try to use them to the best of our ability. But again, as the Netziv said, not to be choishesh l'kvoid atzmai, not to care about the recognition that we get from other people. And as Rabbi Belsky is pointing out, to try to strive to be the greatest we could be without caring that other people are getting in our league, other people are higher than us. That's not the Nakuda. It's not about our rating system. It's not about the sports championship. It's about you being the best Oived Hashem and the biggest Baal Madrega that you could be. And he pointed out that we see this brought out, the Anivas of Moshe Rabbeinu, in the story that's mentioned right before Shvi of Eldad and Medad. And we'll give a little background. Eldad and Medad, it says, Vayisharu Shnei Anoshim B'Machne. There were two people that remained in the Machne. And then Shema Echad Eldad, V'Shema Sheni Medad, and these people were Misnabe B'Machane, Vayisnabu B'Machane. And it said Vayorat Hanar, who was the Nar? That was Moshe Rabbeinu's son, Gershom. That's what Rashi brings. And Yeshua also said, how could it be? Adoni Moshe Kaloim. And what did Moshe Rabbeinu respond? Mi yitain kolam Hashem neviim halavai. Everyone should be a navi. Yeah, I'm a navi, like kam navi kamoshe. But if we have other neviim, Eldad and Medad, so that's gavaldik. So who are Eldad and Medad? We're introduced here to new names in the Torah. So I want to tell you two fascinating things about Eldad and Medad. Firstly, if you look in the Das Kenim Ibali HaTosfos, right over there in Pasuk of Zion, Parak Yud Aleph Pasuk of Zion, he says that they were half brothers with Moshe and Aaron, because Amram married Yocheved, Doidasa, he married his aunt. So when the Torah was given, so he realized, he was taught, that a person is not allowed to marry their aunt. So he had to divorce Yocheved. So he married another woman, and with this woman he had Eldad and Medad. So these people, Eldad and Medad, were half brothers. They were brothers Mina'av. They were brothers of Moshe and Aaron. They shared the same father, just a different mother. The Das Kenim brings that that Rav Amram Goin saw a kuntris of all names. Rav Amram Goin saw a kuntris from Rabbeinu Hillel Me'eretz Yisrael, and it said like this: Ani Hillel Ra'isi Kever Eldad u'Medad. That this early Kadmoin said, I saw the grave of Eldad and Medad. V'haya kasav aleim. It says on the graveside of Eldad and Medad, Achei Aaron mina'av v'loy mina'im. That they were brothers of Aaron. I don't know why it says brothers of Aaron and not Moshe, but they were brothers of Moshe and Aaron. Mina'av v'loy mina'im. So according to the Das Kenim, these were Pashat half brothers of Moshe and Aaron because they shared the same father of Amram after he divorced his wife Yocheved la'achar Matan Torah and married another woman. What's fascinating is that if you look at the Targum Yonis and Ben Uziel, right there on Pasuk Chavav, the Pasuk right before this Das Kenim, he says that they were half brothers, but he says the other way around. That Eldad and Medad came from Yocheved, but from a different father. And why was that? Because Amram, when he learned, not after Matan Torah, well, early on in Mitzrayim, when Aaron and Miriam were born already and Moshe was not, so there was a Gzeira, Kol habein hayiloid hayoyra tashlichu. So Amram got up, the Gemara in Saita Daf Yud Beis, Amud Aleph, says that Amram got up and divorced his wife, and everyone saw the God Lador did that, so they divorced their wives as well. So what happened when Yocheved was divorced? She went and married Eltzafan ben Parnach, and with him, she had Eldad and Medad. So they were half brothers of Moshe and Aaron, but the other way, they were half brothers because they had the same mother, Yocheved, but a different husband, Amram. And the obvious question on this is that there's a halacha that a person, if he divorces a woman and she gets married to someone else, so then he can't be machzir gushasei la'achash anisas. So after Miriam convinced Amram to retake Yocheved, well, wait a second, if she married someone else and had children with them, how could she be taken again by Amram? But that kasha is not such a kasha, because we see that Amram married his aunt, which was also against the Torah. So you have to say, like the Ramban says in Parshas Toldos, that the Avos kept the Torah only in Eretz Yisrael. So here in Mitzrayim, if he was able to marry Doidasai, he was also able to be Machzi Grushasi La'achash Anisas. Or the Nefesh HaChaim, Reb Chaim Volozhin in Shar Aleph, Perach Chav Aleph, says that the Avos kept the Torah before Matan Torah, but since there wasn't a tzivui, they didn't have to keep the Torah. So if they felt that there would be a maila, there would be a tikkun if they would be over a certain avera, like Yaakov Avinu marrying two sisters, so then they were allowed to make exceptions to the rule, and they were allowed to do that. And the Nefesh HaChaim says that's why Amram married Yocheved, even though it was Doidasai, because he knew that it would come out from them, Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron. So then you could say the same thing. It was Machzi Gushas La'achash Anisas, but he knew that Moshe Rabbeinu was still yet to come. He knew that that was the proper thing, so he was able to do that. The kasha that I had is a different kasha. Not how could Amram be Machzi Gushas La'achash Anisas. But if Amram divorced his wife because there was a gzeira, Kol habein hayiloid hayoyra tashlichu, so how could some other yid come and go marry Yocheved and have children? The God Ladar just paskined that you have to not have children because they're all going to be thrown into the river. And because of that, the Gemara says everyone divorced their wives. So how could Eltzafan ben Parnach come and go marry her? So this kasha I looked around for many years for, and I found the question in the Pardes Yosef, not over here in Beha'aloscha, but in Parshas Shmois. It's in Ois Chav Beis. The Pardes Yosef asks this kasha: why did Eltzafan ben Parnach marry her? Like the Yonasan ben Uziel says, l'chayra, if Amram divorced us, they shouldn't have children. So how could someone else go and marry her? So he says a very interesting chiddush that it could be that only people who already had children, they were Mekayim Peri V'Rivya, they divorced their wives. Amram already had a boy and a girl, he had Aaron and Miriam, so all the other people in Klal Yisrael followed suit if they had children. But people that didn't have Peri V'Rivya, that didn't have children yet, they were allowed to get married and have children, to have their first children, and that's what happened. Eltzafan ben Parnach had never had children, so he took Yocheved and had Eldad and Medad. But this is just fascinating. Who is Eldad and Medad? According to both these drachim, they were half brothers of Moshe and Aaron. Just according to the Das Kainim, they shared the same father. According to Yonasan ben Uziel, they share the same mother. But another fascinating idea that I came across, Lagabe Eldad and Medad, was that there's a Gemara Chagiga, some of the Bachrim are learning Chagiga second Seder. The Gemara Chagiga Daf Gimel Amud Aleph brings a story of Hanu Trei Ilmi. There were two mute people that sat in the shir by Rebbe, and it came out that they had a refuah shalema, and Rebbe saw, once they were able to speak, that they knew Kol Terakula, they understood the Shiurim. But who were these two mute people? So the Chida, in his Sefer Pesach Einayim, on Chagiga Daf Gimel, says that these two people were a Gilgal of Eldad and Medad. They came from Eldad and Medad. Since Eldad and Medad said unauthorized nevuah, they said nevuah when they shouldn't have. So because they had diburim that were inappropriate, that weren't in place, so therefore they had to come back as Gilgulim, Gilgulei Neshama, many generations later, as Ilmi, as mute people, people who didn't have the Koyach HaDibur. And the Chidah says, look at the name Eldad and Medad. They both have two dalids, Eldad and Medad. But what are the first two letters before the dalids? Of Eldad is Aleph Lamed, and Medad is Mem Yud. That spells Ilmi. Aleph Lamed Mem Yud. So Hani Trei Ilmi, these two Ilmi were Eldad and Medad. And he adds that it says, what did Yeshua say? Adoni Moshe Kilaim. What does kilayim mean? Rashi brings two pshatim: either lock them up in jail, or kilayim, get rid of them. So the Chidah says kilayim is the oisiyos keilaim, like an elaim. So that was part of the curse that Yeshua said about them, the lashon of kilayim, which is the oisiyos keilaim, and that's what taka happened. They have to come. So we learned a little bit about who Eldad and Medad were b'shas Maisa, and then who they came in a different Gilgal, that Gemara Chagiga, the Trei Ilmi. But Rabbi Belsky brought out a gavaldige insight over here from the reaction of Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu says, Halavai, mi iten kalam Hashem neviim. That is the aside of Anivus. Moshe Rabbeinu worked his whole life to grow in Madrega, to be a great Baal Madrega. But if other people were going to be Neviim also, that's not a threat. Yeshua, Gershom, the son of Moshe, the oldest son, he was sticking up for the covet of his father. Yeshua, the greatest Talmud, sticking up for the covet of his Rebbe. But Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't interested. I don't need the covet. I don't need to be the greatest Navi. Like come to Moshe, that wasn't, what Moshe Rabbeinu's dream in life, that no one should conquer more land than Alexander the Great. No, he just wanted to be the greatest Navi he could be. What's interesting is the Gemara in Bava Basra, Daf Ayin Hey, says that Moshe Rabbeinu was like the sun and Yeshua was like the moon. Pnei Moshe kepnei Achama, Pnei Yeshua kepnei Levana. So the Kliyakar over here in Pasuk Chavtes says, what was the difference between the sun and the moon? In Chul and Daf Samach HaMebeis, it says that they were both the same size, and the moon complained, you can't have two kings that are mishtamish b'keser echad. So Hashem said, okay, the moon is going to be lowered in size. But you see, the moon held that two people can't be on top, and the sun didn't care. The sun wasn't the one that complained. So the Kliyakar says, that's Moshe and Yeshua. Yeshua said, Adoni Moshe Kalim, you can't have two people or three people on the top. And Moshe said, Mi yitin kalam Hashem. You could have the sun, you could have the moon, you could have anyone. Because about Moshe Rabbeinu, it wasn't about the cover that he was going to get. It was all about being the greatest Oved Hashem he could be. So we should take these lessons from Parshas Beha'aloscha. Firstly, the excitement in Kiyam HaMitzvos, like the Sfas Emes says, Lahagid Shvachi Shal Aaron Shaloi Shina. He never lost that excitement of the beginning of the mitzvah. And like we saw from the Parsha of Pesach Sheni, Lama Nigara. Why should we lose out? We're not looking for a heter, looking for a kula. We're looking for a way to be able to do the mitzvah. That is the lesson of the Sfas Emes in the Hadlakas Menorah of Aaron HaKohen and of the Parsha of Pesach Sheni. And then this Yisod, understanding what Anivus is. Anivus is not believing that we're not that great because we're imperfect. Of course we're imperfect. Every human is imperfect. But we have to see our milas, to see our midas that we have, our talents that Hashem gave us. The idea of Anivus is that we shouldn't be choishesh l'kvoid atzmeinu. We shouldn't need to be on the front page of the paper. We shouldn't need to be mentioned and get publicity. We should do it b'hatznei alachas. We should be the greatest Ovdei Hashem. And hopefully if we excel, we work on this midas anava, and we could say, we don't have to announce it to others, but we can know in ourselves va'ika ana, that we reach that level of anivus. Hopefully then we'll be the greatest Ovdei Hashem that we could possibly be.